Okay.
Okay. Hello and welcome. In this podcast, we're going to be examining Wong Kar-wai's 2000 romance drama In the Mood for Love. Our discussion is going to be surrounding the different motifs that Wong Kar-wai uses to approach the topics of infidelity, faithfulness, and unfaithfulness. So the motif that I'll be starting with is the motif of absence. Most people who watched the film did notice the most apparent thing is that the spouses of the main characters are never shown. I think this absence displays how much of a shadow people outside of a relationship cast on the relationship itself. Also, the absence makes us enter into the perspective of the main characters because the unfaithful couple in this movie is reduced to nothing but their unfaithfulness. We are not allowed to know what they look like or anything else about their lives. The only thing we know about them is their infidelity. This reduction or blindness, I think, is frequently experienced by people who have been the victims of cheating. And I think this evokes like great emotion from the viewer. Another aspect of the absence, I think, is the lightly touched upon political setting that is mainly absent from the film. Uh, the film ends at 66, which is very much Wong Kar-wai uses the cultural revolution of China, I think, to draw an analogy between the revaluation of identities that the main characters also need. Because I think cultural revolution was also a need for the revaluation of the Chinese identity. So that's my thoughts. Go.
Hi, I'm Shravani, and I'll be talking about the architectural aspect of the movie. One of the things which really stood out to me from the entire movie was how the backdrop or the film setting was placed. It felt really tight and claustrophobic because, what do you say, the narrow hallways, the tiny apartments, and how closely the neighbors live. It At this point it looks like as if they're not your neighbors but actually your family members. This somewhere shows that the two, Mrs. Chan and Mrs. Chow, were trapped by their own feelings and their social circumstances. Even though they were close physically, they were separated by a thin wall between each other. Like, this wall can also be a symbol of their emotional distance. They can hear each other, they can feel each other's presence, but they not really were able to break to that real intimacy. Talking about the cramped interiors, this basically portrays how their own routine sort of confines them. Like, for example, they share their meals in the same small spaces. They're passing each other in the narrow corridors. They're walking the same routes, but it's like they're stuck. They're stuck in a loop of their own restraint and desire. Another example about confined, now that we're talking about confined spaces from the movie, can be the dimly lit noodle shop. The environment around that noodle shop also was really crowded and very busy, which can also, show tight spaces in a way because there are too many people. This entire architectural aspect or like background and settings, moreover, of the film can show us that how Walker Wai used the the surroundings to show in a way their love and their longing for each other or towards each other. Thank you.
Who's going next? Go,
Right.
Suvarna.
Hi, I'm Suvarna, and I think the motive I wanted to discuss was the use of color in the movie. I think, again, color in an artist's palette is so very important, right? Because it portrays so much more than just a reflection of light. He saturates the movie so heavily in at least what I noticed, three colors mostly: blue, green, and red, right? And again, I don't think it's a very arbitrary use of color. I think it has very, very deep meaning. Because, at least to me, like from what I understand, blue is the color which is most associated with sadness, right? Like the genre of music, it's blues.
I think a it's very reflective of the deep sadness that's rooted in the tragedy, I'd call it, of, not finding love in your marriage and then finding love after you're married with somebody else, getting to know that your spouse is cheating on you. It's just the entire plot of the movie is like very deeply rooted in sadness. And at least to me, his use of the color blue is very profound in its portrayal of the sadness. Similarly, he uses green, which is usually associated with jealousy, right? Envy of having to share your partner with somebody else, envy of knowing that you're not enough, but somebody else is enough to hold your partner, your significant other's attention. Um, and more than envy, I think the color that is most used and very heavily like emphasized upon in this entire movie is red, right? There is so much burning hot red in the entire movie. It's in the doors of the hotel room, the decors of the houses, the clothes they wear, the tablecloth. It's in the color of the meat. It's perfectly cooked, and you can see the red inside, right? So red has always been the color that's mostly used to symbolize things like love and passion, right? And to me, the two couples are two sides of the same coin, right? Right? On one hand, we have Mr. Chow and Mrs. Chang, who abstain from passion, and on the other hand, their spouses who end up indulging in passion with each other. It's just there's this sort of intimate play between the colors in the movie that talks so much louder than just the dialogues the characters do. So I think that's what I.
Well, hi, I'm Priya, and I am talking about how he uses professions to show the weight of the emotions they carry. So jobs here aren't just to show what their individual background is, but it also shapes how their characters are generally in the movie, or how they express themselves, or even how they relate to each other in this relationship they share. So take Mr. Chaw. He's a journalist, which is all about covering and telling stories and truths. It's a job tied to curiosity, words, and expression. But the irony in his personal life is that he cannot confess one truth, which is his love for Mrs. Chan. So that is very strong irony with his profession. And instead of confessing his love, to Mrs. Chan, he ends up whispering it to the wall at Angkor Wat. So his profession shows that tension between the urge to express the reality of staying silent. So now compare that to Mrs. Chan. She's a secretary in a shipping company, and her work is routine, and her appearances are in order, but her voice rarely enters the picture. And that's exactly how she lives her personal life too: proper, discreet, and restrained. She supports others but hides her own emotions when it comes to expressing them out or talking them out to Mr. Chow. When we put these two professions side by side, we see more than a career difference. We see how these professions show how things are in 1960s Hong Kong. That journalism gave men a freedom of speech, and then women were always in the subordinated roles, like a secretary. Even though she was working, she was always in a subordinated role. That also shows how unequal the society was.
Should I start?
Yeah.
Yeah, you go.
Okay, sure. I think bringing this conversation to a close, it was a very, very interesting movie. There's also this very fragile balance between, like, I think it was tenderness and passion, but also the concept of faithfulness intrigued me a lot because, again, while they chose to, remain apart physically, emotional infidelity is still infidelity. So, what was their sacrifice really for, right? So, I think the end of the movie kind of left most viewers, including myself, very frustrated. However, it was a very enjoyable watch for me because it um, opens up parameters of choices, right? Makes you think about why other people choose what they choose with their lives. And I don't know, I think that's all I have to say. It's about perspective for me.
Adding to what you said about tenderness and passion, somewhere I agree upon that part, and I felt the exact same things while watching it. Like, it almost feels like as if they're too tender to what do you say? They're too tender to like violate each other's emotional space. So that's all I have to add
Well,
about this.
adding on to Shravani, even Shravani previously mentioned how the walls are thin. Living in a apartment like that or a building like that, and having neighbors like Mrs. Koo and the landlady,
Auntie Snow.
they're subjected to a lot of moral policing when even they walk together to home, or even talk together or like make eye contact at some point. They're all judged to moral policing, and then even at one point the landlady says, "I think you should meet your husband more often, or you shouldn't stay away from your husband more often." So I think moral policing was also a way which decided their fate of not confessing their love ever to each other.
Thank you. I'll close the discussion by adding my comments. I think the reason the movie is so affecting is because they do something that is very like not proper or like desirable. Like most of us would like to just move on from our cheating partner and just get over with our lives and not lose our sense of self-worth. But I think the reason why this movie is affecting is because we really don't want to be like these two people. That's, yeah, I think that's the biggest emotional like